What Ethiopia built with $14 billion debt from China. For decades, Western countries and organizations like the IMF and World Bank tried to help Africa develop. And to be fair, many of them had good intentions. They wanted stability. They wanted democracy. They wanted African nations to succeed. But good intentions are not enough. Because despite all the loans, the advice, and the programs, much of Africa remained poor. Roads stayed broken. Factories never came. Young people had no jobs. Then Ethiopia tried a different approach. They looked east, to China. Today, Ethiopia owes China roughly $14 billion. Some people call this a debt trap. But let us look at what Ethiopia actually built with that money. A railway. A world-class airport. Factories that employ thousands. And soon, a refinery that will refine its own oil. This is not a story of anger against the West. It is a story of a country choosing what worked best for its own people. Let me explain. The West had good intentions, but the results were poor. Let us be clear. The West was not evil. After colonialism ended, European countries and America wanted to help Africa stand on its own feet. They created the World Bank and the IMF. They gave loans. They sent experts. But the methods they used did not work for Africa. In the 1980s and 90s, they introduced something called structural adjustment programs. The idea was simple: we will lend you money, but you must follow our rules. Privatize your companies. Cut spending on schools and hospitals. Open your borders to Western goods. On paper, this sounded reasonable. In reality, it was a disaster. African factories could not compete with cheap Western imports. They closed. Local businesses died. Governments could no longer afford healthcare or education. The Western advisors meant well. But they did not understand Africa's reality. They applied one formula to every country, ignoring local needs. And when things got worse, the West blamed African leaders for corruption or bad governance. Maybe that was partly true. But it was also true that the Western model itself was flawed for Africa. By the 2000s, many African nations realized, good intentions are not enough. We need results. Ethiopia decided to try something different. Ethiopia is a special country. It was never colonized for a long period like most of Africa. So it had the confidence to choose its own path. In the early 2000s, Ethiopia looked at China. China offered something the West was not offering. No lectures about democracy first. No demands to privatize everything. No waiting for years of studies. China said, we will help you build infrastructure. Roads. Railways. Factories. You worry about politics later. Ethiopia said yes. Here is what $14 billion built. First, the railway. Ethiopia is landlocked. For years, goods took 2 days by truck to reach the port in Djibouti. Now they have a Chinese-built electric railway. The journey takes 7 hours. A landlocked country became connected. Second, the airport. Bole International Airport in Addis Ababa expanded from 7 million to 30 million passengers per year. Ethiopian Airlines became Africa's largest carrier. That brings business, investment, and jobs. Third, the factories. Hawassa Industrial Park was built in just 9 months. Over 20 international companies operate there. More than 30,000 young Ethiopians have jobs, mostly women. They make clothes and export them to Europe and America. Fourth, the refinery. Soon, the Gold refinery will allow Ethiopia to refine its own oil. No more begging for fuel. That is true independence. These are not small achievements. These changed the country. These are not small achievements. These changed the country. Could the West have done this? Maybe. But they didn't. Now, could the West have built these things? Of course. Western countries have the money and the technology. But the process would have been much slower. First, there would be years of studies. Then conditions about elections and human rights. Then requirements to use Western contractors. Then debates in Western parliaments. Ethiopia would still be waiting. China moved fast. No conditions. No delays. Just cranes and concrete. That is not to say the West is bad. It just means the West's model was not designed for speed. It was designed for caution, for process, for accountability. Those are good things. But they come at a cost. For a country like Ethiopia, with millions of young people needing jobs now, speed mattered more than process. Is $14 billion debt a problem? Let us talk honestly about debt. Yes, $14 billion is a lot of money. Ethiopia has challenges. Foreign exchange is tight. The war in Tigray hurt the economy. But here is the important question: what was the money used for? If you borrow money to buy food or pay salaries, that debt is dangerous. You have nothing to show for it. But Ethiopia borrowed to build assets. A railway that moves goods. An airport that brings business. Factories that create jobs. A refinery that produces fuel. These things generate value. They pay for themselves over time. That is not a debt trap. That is smart borrowing. The West calls it a trap because they want Africa to borrow from them instead. But their loans came with conditions that kept Africa poor. China's loans came with concrete and steel. Conclusion. So what is the lesson here? The West had good intentions. Many Western aid workers, advisors, and leaders genuinely wanted to help Africa. But good intentions are not enough. Results matter. For 60 years, the Western model did not deliver the transformation Africa needed. Ethiopia tried something new. They borrowed from China. They built infrastructure. They changed their country. Does that mean China is perfect? No. Does that mean the West is useless? No. It means Africa must choose what works for Africa. Ethiopia made its choice. The railway is running. The airport is growing. The factories are producing. The refinery is coming. The West meant well. But Ethiopia needed more than good intentions. They needed cranes in the sky. And that is the truth.